Hey everyone, welcome to part 5, kinda, of Nobody Wants to Die. I had found out that this game did have an alternate ending, and I decided to go through and play it again. I learned that there are only 4 choices that determine the game ending. The first time I played through it, apparently I did the perfect bad ending. So I've gone back through, I've edited this video down from the 4 hours it took, but I got the good ending. I'm going to summarize the plot and just kind of point out what those choices are that determine that ending. So, let's get started. The year is 2329. A few hundred years prior, Ichorite was created, allowing humans to achieve a form of immortality. The Ichorite is a physical substance that wraps around your brain and records your consciousness. It can be transferred into a new body. In this futuristic dystopian timeline, the US government has created a mandatory subscription that everyone over the age of 21 is forced into. A person gets the Ichorite implanted and then pays a fee to the government to maintain ownership of their own body. Should a person fail to remain healthy or can't pay the subscription fee, said citizen has their body frozen in the bank, where someone else can then purchase it, and if that person dies or becomes seriously injured, the Ichorite gets transferred into that body, or in this game called a shell, and assumes the new role of their previous life. We start this story with our protagonist, James Kara. James is a cop who recently died while on duty, and he's having trouble adjusting to his new shell. He wants to get back on the job straight away, but isn't officially cleared for duty. The chief decides to give some work off the record, but since James is not officially back on the force, we have a liaison we have to reference to. Her name is Sara, and she'll be officially recording everything we're doing. Our assignment is to head to the home of Edward Green, a big shot, former Secretary of Health. The report states he's died and we're being sent in to gather his Ichorite so it can be placed in a new shell. However, when we get to his apartment, it is a huge mess, but as we get to Green's body, we discover that his Ichorite is completely destroyed, meaning he can't be transferred into his shell, making this Green's true final death, which leads James to believe this was not a suicide. Luckily, it's the future, and we have a fancy device on our wrist that allows us to rewind time and see things as they happened. We also got a little UV light to trace blood and other substances, and we have an X-ray device to look through walls and trace bullet trajectories. You know those little detective parts in the Batman Arkham game where you have to figure out how events happened in certain areas? Take that concept and make it the whole game. That's the gameplay of Nobody Wants to Die. It's niche, it is pretty fun, but can be slightly annoying trying to gather some of the evidence in some of these scenes. As we go through Green's home and rewind time, it appears that Green might not have been alone. He's got a weird injury on his back that doesn't look self-inflicted. A portion of the rewind shows that someone might have slammed his head into the ground, and there's a pocket watch in the home that was gifted by Green to someone else, hinting somebody was probably there. We also find a strange liquid within a vial shaped like an Ouroboros. This piece of evidence we sneak out for later. There's also an Ouroboros with a date carved into the tree growing in Green's home. The weird thing is, the carving in the tree is really old, but it has the current date listed on it. That's important, and we'll come back to that later. The chief radios us that the feds are on the way and tells us we need to bail. We go home, play a really nifty version of Connect the Dots with the evidence we found, and come to the conclusion that we cannot officially say this was a suicide. We tell Sara we took the vial of what we believe to be poison and send it to her for analysis. A day later, Sara comes back and tells us the bottle is filled with atropine, which is a real medication that's used in treating certain types of poisons, but in this game, it acts as a poison to Ichorite. If it comes into contact with Ichorite, it becomes destroyed, making it unable for transfer. We also confirmed on the vial there was a fingerprint. The shell belongs to a person named Dmitry Kovalev. Kovalev is the owner of the Icarus, a giant blimp in the sky which is also the fanciest bar in all of Brooklyn. Only super important people are allowed in, and it's rumored Kovalev never leaves it. But, as luck would have it, the Icarus is having engine troubles and just crash-landed into a building near our home. Reporters say that the whole ship is about to fall into a chasm, so we need to break in before it falls and all evidence is lost. As we go enter the Icarus, the whole place is on fire. There is way more damage that could have just been caused by engine issues. There are corpses completely burnt to a crisp, and no survivors. So we start rewinding time, and one of the first things we find is that Kovalev has a personal safe with another Ouroboros painted onto it, with the date October 22nd, 2329, which is the current date in the game. As a reminder, the tree in Green's home had the previous date, October 21st, carved into it. We'll get back to these again. The evidence points to an explosion happening inside the bar, and as we piece everything together, we learn that Kovalev himself was responsible. He purposely set off bombs and started gunning down everyone in the bar himself. Once everyone was dead, he covered himself in a vest of dynamite, setting off a massive explosion that killed himself and his glorious mustache. I mean, look at it, it's so good. But our rewind abilities are able to get us inside the metal safe, where we find a random card, some booze, and a signed note from Green that reads, "I feel his breath on my neck. We don't have a moment to lose. We must bite. Complete the plan." As we're about to leave, we get a call from a mysterious stranger. Kara thinks that this is the person who was probably in the room when Green died. The stranger tells us to check out a specific corpse we didn't originally ID on this ship. We find this corpse, and it turns out it belongs to someone who helped pass to lower the age of the body bank requirement. So I left some lore out that we need to fill in now. At the beginning of the game, we learn that it's mandatory that everyone signs up for the subscription fee at the age of 21. If they do not pay their subscription fee, they get forced into the body bank. Before the first stage of the game, a bill is trying to be passed to lower the age from 21 to 20. The sitting president signed the bill into law, even though he stated he was against it. Thing is, the majority of the population is actually against lowering the age. They seem to be against the whole immortality subscription on a whole, because, as always, only the elite rich are the ones who can really afford to do as they please. While we are on the Icarus, we found that there were a few lawmakers on board who were drafting new proposals to lower the age to 19 and eventually 18 over the course of many, many years. They would work to increase the fees and taxes associated with getting new bodies, and were already planning on how to split the profits. Now, this particular body that James is standing over also has his signature over the recent documents we found. Turns out, he's also part of the people who will profit with the age being lowered over the years. In fact, he helped draft the documents. The stranger's voice tells you you have a chance to damage the Ichorite by destroying his brain. He'll still be able to be transferred into a new shell, but syncing with the body will be a long, painful, and traumatic process. We, the player, are now given the first major choice that leads to the good or bad ending in this game. And pause. Now hear me out. This is one of the 4 major choices in the game that decides how it ends. And the way it works is pretty simple. When the stranger's voice comes through your earpiece and says, "Come on, do it, they deserve it," and you decide, "No, I'm a good cop," that gets you the bad ending. But if you listen and follow through on every single one of the stranger's suggestions, that gets you the good ending. And since that's the ending I'm trying to get this time...
You deserved it, motherfucker.
Good. Very good. Good boy.
What? What have I done?
I would say YOLO, but that doesn't apply in this game's world. Sara yells for James to escape the ship before it comes crashing down, and he does just that. When he gets home, the public is starting to riot due to the new law being passed, and James needs to do his synchronization therapy. So we get a small lore dump. We learn that James was originally an all-star baseball player, one of the best, but he ended up with a career-ending injury and decided he was going to jump into a new shell so he could keep playing. But his new body wasn't fully compatible and he wasn't able to perform like he used to. So he changed careers and became a detective. While on the job, James and his partner Seth were pursuing a suspect on a train. Something happened that caused the train to explode and killed Seth, James, and everyone else on board. He doesn't make that much as a cop, so the next body he's put into belonged to a former junkie. but since James isn't fully able to remember the full details of his death, he's deemed unfit to return to regular duty. This new shell, being in bad shape, and James' traumatic recent death seem to be the reason behind his inability to properly sync up in the new shell. So, instead of seeking help, he keeps doing his job unpaid like an idiot. Sara and James go over the evidence and rule out Kovalev as being a possible suspect, and also learn he had his Ichorite destroyed with the same substance as Green. But also among the evidence, we find a cop was involved in a shady deal, trying to obtain the blueprints to Green's apartment by the guy who built it for him. Turns out there's something suspicious about the wall safe in Green's home. James heads back over to the first level of this game and finds out there's a huge generator connected to the wall safe. We get the power booted back up and discovered that the card that we found in Kovalev's safe is actually a real key to open up a secret door in behind Green's safe. The door leads to an elevator, and inside that elevator is the dead body of Brian Coven, a philanthropist who is widely known for making sure orphanages in the city stay open and operational. We take the elevator down to see what we can find out and discover an underground sex chamber called the Red Room, and it's filled with more dead bodies. Among the dead bodies are the governor, the mayor, a senator, some political journalists, all of whom are corrupt. Once again, the stranger hacks through our earpiece. James and the stranger, who we now suspect as the killer, have some witty banter back and forth. We find signs that the killer was involved in a struggle, and then we find another hidden underground room within the underground room. Only this one is used to illegally switch out a person into a new shell without the government knowing. Turns out, Brian Coven, that guy that we found dead in the elevator, was only keeping orphanages open to make sure that the rich and elite could have as many usable shells as they wanted. Since these shells belong to orphans, they weren't going to end up on any missing persons reports anytime soon. Once they did whatever sick stuff they wanted in these bodies, they would just load back into their previous shells and just dispose of the used ones like trash. And there are cabinets overfilled with files of the bodies they used. We also find a security grid and find footage of what actually happened in the Red Room. Turns out, Green was the one who actually murdered everyone there. James is convinced that the stranger must have been able to blackmail Green into doing it. Asking how he did it, the stranger tells James to figure it out since he's a detective, then hints that he knows where Sara is at and is making his way to her. We rush out of the Red Room, but before we leave, the stranger asks us to make another moral decision. We can either leave the secret room we found open, so when other cops come back to clean up, they'll find all the important politicians downstairs and bring them back to life in new shells. Or we can take the key card, sealing the secret room behind the safe, and ensuring that all those corrupt bigwigs never see the light of another day. Since we want the good ending, we pull the card and head off to find Sara. Using our amazing detective skills, we narrow in on Sara's location. We go through her creepy maze of an entrance, only to hear the voice of the suspected killer. And it plays out like this.
You thought I'd be an easy target?
Police, don't shoot! Put the gun down, now!
Right. Then we live happily ever after.
How did you find her?
Drop
the gun, and I'll let you live.
You gotta be kidding. Where is she? Talk!
Drop your weapon and get out. I'm counting to 3. 1!
I'm going through whoever and whatever it takes to save Sara!
What? James, is that you?
Shit. Sara?
Well, that was weird. We finally meet Sara, and she isn't exactly as we expect. Turns out, Sara rented her body on the black market. She rented her original natural born-into body to a famous psychiatrist named Jane Selma. Selma was last seen with Edward Green on the day of his death, and was also seen on the Icarus before it exploded. We found proof of this before, but Sara always told us to ignore this because she deemed it unimportant. But now we know it's because Sara wanted to keep us in the dark about her shell being at these crime scenes. We learned from Sara that she did this because she would receive a pretty nice payout. She needed the money because her first love ended up in the bank and her body went up for auction. Sara is trying to buy her out of the bank so she can free her. The money would also make sure that neither of them would end up in the bank again. Sara also reveals to us that she did some digging and found out what was in Ed Green's wall safe. Turns out he was running private experiments to see how long Ichorite and body transfers would last. And every experiment to keep the system going failed. This is why the dead cop was on the Icarus buying blueprints to Green's apartment. The notes mentioned the secret room, and they were trying to get into it, but James grabbed the plans first. After going back and looking at all the evidence gathered through all scenes, the information still points at Green being a major part of the puzzle. Sara is convinced everything points to two main possibilities. Either Green was behind everything and Kovalev and a third stranger were helping out, or Green and Kovalev were pawns under a killer pulling all the strings behind the scenes. She asks for James' opinion, and this choice becomes the third part of what determines your ending. You can either say it's the mysterious stranger that keeps contacting you, or it all points to Green. Choosing Green as the mastermind is what you select to get the good ending. But even by choosing Green, Sara is still convinced that there's a killer working behind the scenes that we can't track. James decides Sara should look into any cases involving final deaths, where people could not have their Ichorite transferred. Turns out, most recent on record was the train incident James just died in before the start of the game. For now though, we're going to skip that chapter, and we're going to jump to the last part of the game. Riots have fully broken out all over the city, and there's a major disturbance happening at the park where Ed Green's memorial is taking place. Sara asks you to come here because Jane is caught in the riots and is trying to make it out. Sara asks you to find Jane so you can make sure that Sara's body is unharmed, because Sara is pregnant. Why that's needed in the story, I don't know, but it's there. James gets seriously injured trying to make his way to Jane, but eventually he does find her, and then they start shooting at each other. I'm gonna let this part play out from here, but the final and fourth choice to get the good ending is that you have to throw your gun away. But this is how all of that unfolds.
There she is.
Don't shoot! I was sent by...
Good morning, sunshine! You're too late! She belongs to me!
We have a problem! This body belongs to someone I fucking care about!
It wasn't supposed to be a secret! I listened to you the whole time. Your liaison officer? No different from the rest. And she deserves to be punished. The punishment you didn't have the courage to inflict.
Who were you to Green and Kovalev? What did you have in common with them?
For years, I've watched people look the other way. Until they can't see it all and lose their humanity. I had to use them to shake the world up. I just need to dish out justice one more time!
One more time? Kovalev and Green are the ones who did all the work. You did nothing. You're nobody. You hid in their shadow and ended up tormenting a pregnant woman.
I made them do it.
You need to put that gun down. It's psychosis. This happened to Green and
Kovalev too. Put the gun down, please.
What is... Sara. I mean, Selma. Is that you? Fight him! Take back control!
Fight him? You think someone's controlling me, right?
Wait. What?
Let's fight him together. Can we? We'll fight him together.
We'll make it. Just put the gun down. It's just me.
He's taking over your body. It's happened to me too. You can beat him. You gotta fight.
I can't see what you see, or hear what you're hearing, or feel what you're feeling. But I know even Green struggled with something similar. It's desynchropsychotic disorder.
Desynchro... What?
Probably our Ichorite. Our mind has a limit.
It can only handle a certain number of traumas and reincarnations. Until it gives out.
I don't know if I can help you, to be honest, but I'll try. You just have to let me go, okay?
What did Green say about Ouroboros?
About what?
About the snake and the date carved on the tree.
He was working on something he wanted to finish by then. He knew his mind was going. I didn't think that date was when he planned to kill himself. Oh, I should have known he'd try to drag us with him. Bastard, please, put the gun down.
You can trust me. Drop it.
Please.
Try the path behind me. You have a chance to get through. Take this. Sara will guide you. You'll just have to calm her down first.
Thank you.
I could feel his breath on my neck. I should have felt fear or anger, but I just felt serene. Maybe because I was so fucking tired.
Did you catch that? What Jane said? This is all psychosis. Everything we thought about a secret killer, another stranger calling us and giving us cryptic messages in the background, has all been James hallucinating. This is the only explanation the game tells you outright. And here's my understanding of what happened. At some point in his current shell, Edward Green was having hallucinations and hearing voices. He was seeing Jane Selma as her patient for who knows how long, but he confided his experiences to her. They determined that it's all the sole cause of the Ichorite and cheating death for so long. The Ichorite, turns out, isn't perfect, and sinking into new shells isn't always fully successful. Basically, even with the Ichorite, people will eventually still have to die and not have a resurrection. Kovalev was also seeing Selma because he was experiencing the same symptoms Green was. Eventually, the two friends learn they are suffering the same symptoms. They end up making a pact. Green would run experiments and do everything in his power to see if there was a way to fix it. He carved a date into his tree a long time ago and decided if he couldn't figure out the problem by then, he would end his own life. But not only was he going to take his own life, he was going to bring down everyone else who was a part of the system with him. Kovalev agrees to the suicide pact with Green and decides he too will kill as many key figures as he can. In agreement, he paints the same Ouroboros on his safe and will make sure specific people are in his bar the day after Green goes through with his plan. And as long as you listen to that little bad voice in your head, their plan ends up being successful, and a corrupt system is dealt a major blow. During this whole recap, there has been one part of the story I've been leaving out. James Kara is a widower. His wife Rachel died over a decade ago, but when they found her body, the Ichorite was completely destroyed, exactly like Ed Green. James has been convinced for years that she was given poison on purpose by a dealer, and that she was targeted for death for some unknown reason. Throughout the game, James has hallucinations of Rachel constantly. It's never fully explained what happened to her. I tried to go online, but a lot of people have different ideas of what happened, based on what I saw in the game, and it's possible I may have missed a clue or object that gave me a specific dialogue option to actually find out, but I think Rachel willingly committed suicide. When we first entered James' apartment, there's a door to a room that we can never enter. It looks like a child's room, but the outline makes it appear that it's been sealed so it can never be opened again. I'm assuming that James and Rachel were expecting a child, but she most likely had a miscarriage. Based on the fact that James has no issues keeping photos of his wife or his previous work partners and other people around the house, it seems like he would also keep a photo of a child if one was born. He also only talks about how hard losing his wife was, so I'm assuming there's no attachment to the child since the kid was never born. I believe Rachel was just depressed over the loss and wanted to make sure if she did try to kill herself, there's no way she could be brought back. What I think is, she then reached out to a dealer, specifically asking for the poison to destroy the Ichorite, and then jumped from their apartment window, as it's hinted in the synchro test James does earlier in the game. James also has a reoccurring nightmare where his wife is on a beach and he's in the ocean trying to reach her, but as he gets closer, the Ichorite grabs him, pulling him back into the sea. The level before the final stage, you go back to the train where you and your old partner Seth died in a horrible accident. James is here trying to find evidence that there is actually a secret killer involved. The only thing you can remember going into this area is that you and Seth were chasing after someone. As James tries to piece together the events of what happened, every time he uses the time reconstructor, everything is shown to him in first person, because the reconstructor is using his own memories to piece the events back together. James discovers that he is the one who shot the passengers on the train. He was so obsessed with trying to stop this suspect, he gunned down innocent bystanders in the process. James believes the suspect he is after knows who was involved regarding his wife's death. While the chase is happening, James' partner Seth is outside in his car trying to follow both of them. The dealer ends up firing at Seth's vehicle, causing it to crash into the train, killing everyone else on board. James begins to hallucinate again, seeing visions of Rachel, hearing the voice of what we now know is a non-existent killer, until finally you end up in your child's room, staring at your wife's death date in another Ouroboros drawn in blood. With the trauma of his dead wife, his own recent death, and the incompatibility he's facing with his new shell, it's obvious that James is the perfect candidate to be suffering from the desynchropsychotic disorder mentioned by Jane. But, as Jane also mentioned, the main cause appears to be from the Ichorite giving out. So, with all our choices made, the game plays out like this.
First life. We really made it. The second was good too. The third never came. Still, we were lucky. Really lucky. I've been living a stolen, anguished life for a long time. And he was born from that pain.
Everything's all right.
Your time is long over.
Run!
I'll get her anyway. I'll drag her to the abyss.
Hi, James. I know you won't pick up, but my psychologist says I need closure. She's pretty famous. She's alive thanks to you. And thanks to me, she hid here in the slums in the first days of the riots. Believe it or not, it was the safest here. It's pretty strange to look at myself, pregnant and shocked by the poverty I'd spent my whole life in. I had a few desynchro attacks because of it, but I recovered. Fully recovered. I finally got my body back, and I finally have enough money to get Taylor out. I was worried if Taylor would still be herself after she was thawed out, but Salma's pretty sure that there's no symptoms until the first 100 years. Symptoms like what you've been struggling with. She tried to explain it to me, and I'm so sorry. For the record, you were the most difficult partner I've ever worked with, and no one else will ever come close. But thank you. You deserve peace. I really hope you found it.
And with that, we end part 5 of this playthrough. Now, I'll go back to my Steam library and struggle to pick what game I play next. Thank you for watching.